as I witnessed sort of the discourse around various awards, particularly MVP, I've really started to think to myself that awards in sports seem very antithetical to the point of sports. So my question to you is, how do you view awards in sports? I'm very curious what your take is, or what if you or your teammates have ever sort of spoken about just awards in general and the discourse around awards.
It's a good question. I think for me, especially in my background and how, I was kind of underrated my entire life, awards didn't really mean a lot to me because, I just didn't get them. Like I had 6 offers coming out of high school. I was number 24 in my state. So like I wasn't really getting awards and stuff like that, but it never really deterred me. So now, when I get to when I'm in the NBA and I'm up for like my second year, I was probably like 6 or so in like MIP votes. And, there's different awards that, that could be, I could be recognized for, but like I'm kind of numb to it a little bit and don't really care too much about it because, I'm just used to it. I will say for some people, like it is very important. Like having an MVP, that's super important, especially for example, like with Shai, he could have won it last year. There's a strong possibility he could win it this year, but he could also not win it. And it's like he's having this really amazing season, but there's a possibility he might not win it. And it shouldn't discredit like how good of a year he's having. Like he's playing out of his mind, and he's a really good player on a really good team, and should have a chance to win that MVP trophy.
I was at the Derrick Rose retirement ceremony in Chicago this weekend on Saturday.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of reasons why, going back to when he was in middle school and high school, why I think D Rose was like uniquely important to the city of Chicago, just with his upbringing and what he's sort of done in the community there and everything like that. But I will say he won the MVP when he's 22, which is crazy to think about now. He's like Brandon Miller's age, winning the MVP. Yes, doing that in his home city gave it even more significance. But I mean, I guess, in your guys' perspective, like if D Rose doesn't have an MVP, do you think he has the same level of stature as he does now?
I mean, low-key, I still think he has the same.
It's the same thing.
He has the same level, like in my opinion, because like Joakim said, he's like a people's champ. Like even if people want to argue about like his Hall of Fame status, like he goes down as one of the best, or at least one of the most influential players and like most idolized players in the entire NBA, like entire history of the NBA. Like everybody loved D Rose. Like you couldn't, like in my opinion, there's not one person that could really say like they dislike D Rose. Maybe like some people that he was cooking or like dunked on, but like other than that though, like he was such a humble dude. He just was amazing on the court, super explosive, electric, and stuff, something that people haven't really seen. And so I still think even if he didn't get that MVP award, he would still be pretty highly touted. But obviously that's a cherry on top at 22 years old.
And I'm sure it matters. I'm sure it meant the world to obviously him and Chicago fans and stuff like that. So yeah, but I'm with Trey, just for the record.
And also too, if I may add, it seems like, like the MVP award and like celebration isn't as like glorified as it used to be. Like when KD would have his speech, Russ had such a great speech, Harden as well. Like you don't really get that anymore. At least like it doesn't seem like people are really getting that same like excitement. Like they're still not giving that same like recognition. Like it's just different. Hopefully I'm not like off on that, but like I just feel like it's very different. I mean, maybe because I was a kid and like you just look up to those players, but
don't you think some of that though is because Jokic has won it and he like he doesn't care. Like he doesn't get excited about it. He says that like it's just a thing. He openly is like, I don't care about it. And then, not to like blame the media for everything, but the media deserves a lot of blame. The like discourse around it is so shitty and so stupid. And it becomes a thing where people are, whether it's they stuff with him and Joel or whatever it is, where it becomes so dumbed down that I feel like, to Jason's point about people who just like basketball and they don't want to fight all the time. They like tune it out. They're just sort of like, they're both great.
And to just elaborate, it's like, I don't even know how you compare Shai and Jokic. Like they're just such different players, and the idea that fans are like arguing on the internet over these two is really funny. And then to Trey's point, I wish we didn't look at it as this like objective truth that this player is undisputed best, whatever. And I wish it was just like more celebratory, is the way that Trey is sort of describing it.
The follow-up I have, we've talked with Tyrese about this last year when he was hurt, and I think a bunch of people have sort of talked about this over the last couple of years publicly, is with the all-NBA stuff and the minimum games. I mean, I don't know if this is the same exact conversation, but like Trey, you guys have seen this with your team. It's been the craziest injury shit I've ever seen, but like the idea that you need to force yourself to play because of an arbitrary award feels like it's like antithetical to like, what's good for the human body. And so I'm just curious if you think that's going to like come to a head at some point where there's almost it doesn't feel right, basically, that if you play, 66 games, but you dominate, but you had to miss those other games because you were actually hurt, that you should not be eligible for all. I remember we talked about with Tatum, and he lost a bunch of money because of it. And it was and so I don't know. I don't know if it's the exact same conversation or not, but it does feel like there's probably some connection.
Yeah, I definitely think it should be based on, like it's tough because, if you try, there's always going to be ways that people find a loophole, because if you say like, okay, it has to be based on like actual injuries instead of people saying like rest, they'll just be like, okay, ankle management or like illness. And it's like, you can't really like question somebody being sick. And so then if it's like, the whole thing is like about participating, but there are actually a lot of guys like you said with Tyrese last year, he probably came back too quickly and was playing hurt for a good amount of time. And that's not good for anybody. That's not good for the league. That's not good for Tyrese. It's not good for his team. And, that's a problem. But if he doesn't play and he doesn't have a chance to make that All-NBA, then he's missing out on a large amount of money, which at the end of the day, like, this is a career and you have a short window of time that you're going to be playing this game, and you want to try to make the most amount of money that you can in this time so you can give back to your family or do things that you want to do with that money. So it's tough. It's definitely tough. And I don't envy Adam Silver for that one, because you got to figure it out in order to, appease the players as well as appease the fans and the product that you're trying to put out there.
Yeah, I think there's so many variables outside of basketball too that just factor in. I'm a big proponent. I've been very open about my. I believe that the MVP votes should go back to being private because of what groupthink has sort of done to the voter pool. That obviously opens yourself up to, homers sort of just voting for their people and no one knowing that. But I don't know. I've said this on another podcast before, but I remember talking to a young MVP voter last year who was like, I would have voted this way, but I knew the votes were going to be public. And it's like a funny thing to consider, because you're talking about guys that are trying to make it in sports media. They're young. They're probably they're voting with the same group of people that probably dictate their future jobs. There's so many variables outside of just basketball that I don't know. I'm just feeling a real fatigue around this year's MVP vote. So that's it.